What's going on, everybody? Appreciate you for tuning in. Look, the NFL weekend is off to a great start. Thursday night, we had Seahawks Rams, which I'll get into. But I want to start with the college football playoff getting underway Friday night, Bama, Oklahoma. A game that a lot of people had eyes on because obviously Alabama's that team that everybody's looking at as they shouldn't have gotten in, didn't deserve it. So I think people were watching to see if Bama was going to prove them right or possibly prove them wrong. And look, early part of the game, it looked like those people would be, pumping their chest out, celebrating a Bama domination because Oklahoma gets out to a 17-0 start. John Mateer beating Bama's defense with his arm, his legs as well. It seemed like every time Bama tried something defensively, Oklahoma had an answer for it. But then it was a 3rd and 5. Ty Simpson had been, he had a rough start, missed some throws. I felt like he was a little bit unsettled in the pocket at times. The running game wasn't really going. And they convert the 3rd and 5. Simpson throws a deep ball that he actually underthrew, but it seemed like once that play happened, he got a little bit more comfortable. Then later that drive, they had a 4th and 2. I thought Kalen DeBoer, deciding to go for it made a lot of sense. Oklahoma's up 17-0, had all the momentum. A field goal there wouldn't really do much in the grand scheme of things. They go for it. He hits the slant route. Great fight from the wide receiver. Gets into the end zone for the touchdown. And then from there, it's 17-7. And that actually turned out to be quite the momentum swing because the next drive, Mateer rolls out to his left. There's a 3rd and 3. He could have walked for the first down. Decides to throw it downfield. It was actually dropped. It was actually a good throw. It was just dropped. Then Oklahoma decides to punt. The punt's blocked because the punter muffs the snap. Bama turns right around, gets a field goal out of it, 17-10. Then Mateer throwing like an alert out to his left. Picked off, pick 6. All of a sudden, a game that looked like it was getting away from Alabama. It was a 17-17 game going into the half. In the second half, Bama rode that wave, got out to 34-17 lead. Oklahoma gets a touchdown. Then their kicker, who, as the broadcast let us know, hadn't missed a kick since week 1. He made like 24, 25 in a row. Then in the fourth quarter, he missed one that went over the goalpost, but it was ruled no good because the rule, the complete ball has to go over or whatever. And you could see that, you saw him shaking his head. He couldn't believe that one. Then a 51-yarder, he comes up short on, and it was just kind of telling that he was a kicker that had been so automatic. And then in a playoff game, he misses 2 big kicks, which, look, he makes those 2. You're looking at a 34-30 game. You don't know necessarily how the final moments would have played out. But Bama pulls off the comeback from 17-0. They said the largest comeback in college football playoff history. Obviously, it's a short history, but hey, that is something. And Bama will now face number 1 Indiana in the Rose Bowl next. So Bama moves on. Oklahoma going home. And like I said, now the people who thought Bama shouldn't have been in, look, they have to kind of eat those words for a little bit. Now, I guess once again, the focus will be on them versus Indiana. And if Indiana with that tough defense can, stifle Bama, I don't know what the conversation will be necessarily. But look, if Bama looks like first half Alabama, well, actually, like first quarter Alabama, where they just looked overwhelmed by Oklahoma. I don't know if that goes well against Indiana. Now, if they are the team that once they got going were getting after Mateer defensively, whereas early in the game they couldn't really get to him, and when they did, they allowed running lanes for Mateer to get take off. If they are that team, but the rest of the game, once they got scoring, they were pretty good. So I'm interested to see what Indiana does defensively to try to slow them down. But to go back to the NFL, like I said, it actually got started a Thursday night where Rams coming in, Seahawks going to that game, both teams looking to come out of the game as the number one seed. That was what was on the line with both of them. Darnold's coming off of a stretch where people are kind of wondering, is it Minnesota all over again and his play is about to slip? And look, in the game, he had a couple of interceptions, but the way that Seattle fought in that game, they didn't necessarily let the Rams get out of striking distance with them. They hung around and ended up getting them late with going into overtime. Rams score first. Seattle scores with like 3 minutes left. And the right mentality there. Both teams are going to be playoff teams. Obviously the winner was going to be in position to be the number one overall seed. Seattle goes for 2 because a tie doesn't necessarily help them, because a tie just leaves the Rams in front of them. So the only way they could jump the Rams was with a win. And look, if they were going to lose, they're going to lose. They like I said, they would just be the wild card team that they went into the game as. So they go for 2, and I think it was Barner comes free in the middle. Darnold hits him. Game over. And now look, the NFC playoffs could go through Seattle with the 12th man. I don't know. That could be tough. But that just kicks off the NFL weekend, where we have a lot of games with playoff implications. Those are the games I'm focusing on. All the other ones, you have reasons to watch, but you got Packers Bears on Saturday. Remember, you got 2 games Saturday, your slate Sunday, then obviously your Monday Night Football. Packers Bears, once again, they just played a couple of weeks ago. This one, you feel like if the Packers win it, the division's probably theirs. The Bears looking to regain their spot. First game after Micah. We'll have to see what that does defensively. But the Bears like to run the ball. Number 2 rushing offense, averaging 152 yards a game. The Packers can stop the run, which some people wondered even when they brought in Micah if that was going to be something where they would slip a little, because Micah's not seen as a good run defender, but they're number 8. They're only giving up 100 yards per game. So I think it's going to be a battle of, can the Bears impose their running game and force Green Bay to make some adjustments, like bringing extra guys in the box or whatever, to try to make it easier for Caleb Williams in the passing game. Both teams, though, this is probably where the game will be won or lost. Both teams are really good on third down. So whichever team can, get the other offense off the field the most might determine this game. I think sitting here right now, I would probably go with the Packers in this one to, I guess, take the season sweep. Something to watch for. The Bears, Rome Odunze, Luther Burden are out. So maybe they try to rely on the run game even more. Also, we'll have Bucks Panthers. Look, the NFC South has been, it's been poor theater, we'll say. But now, the next 3 weeks, we get Bucks Panthers twice. They're both 7-7, so somebody has to win it. Now, if you look at the game that's in between the two games, the Bucks have I believe the Dolphins, and then the Panthers play the Seahawks. So the first game is probably more important to Carolina to create that game difference for then going off to face a Seattle team that's going to be tough. We have seen Carolina play up to tough competition and actually knock off a couple of good teams, but I don't know. Seahawks are built a little bit differently. So if the Panthers could win this week, it will probably set up both teams being, tied going into the final week. Which, look, final week, division on the line, great storyline there. The Bucks, the slide that they're on right now, I feel like may not be getting as much attention as it should, and you could, equate that somewhat to some other teams like the Eagles' struggles have really dominated the headlines. The Colts slip, dominating the headlines. The Bucks are right there with those two. But Bucks are one of the worst teams in first and fourth quarter scoring. Interesting to think about that. So they don't necessarily get off to fast starts. And if they're behind late in the game, even though they had wins early in the season where they had fourth quarter comebacks, they're actually not that good at it because they don't score. And that's probably why we've seen them on this slide to where it looked like they're going to run away with the division, and now they're fighting for their playoff lives in the last 3 weeks. And couple that with the Panthers are one of the best fourth quarter scoring defenses. It's a game that if the Panthers get going and score, I don't know, maybe 20-something points, they might be able to take it from the Bucks. But this is an interesting matchup. Like I said, I think the first game this weekend is more important to Carolina, but who knows with this division. You get Jags, Broncos. Another compelling game. The Broncos are looking to secure the number one seed in the AFC, have roads lead through Mile High, which, look, tough place to play in the regular season. With that defense, even tougher come playoffs. Now, the Jags and the Broncos, they're 1-2 in rushing yards per game. I think it could be a low-scoring, time of possession type of game in this one. The Broncos do lead in sacks per game, so if the Broncos defense can slow down the Jags rush offense, force Trevor Lawrence into obvious passing situations, that front seven for Denver can then get after Trevor Lawrence. And look, that might be where the game is won or lost. Trevor Lawrence is not having the greatest season by any means because he's bottom 5 in completion percentage. And I do think Trevor Lawrence is the X factor for Jacksonville if they want to have any kind of lasting effect in the postseason. Trevor Lawrence has to step his game up. We have to be honest with ourselves. Him being bottom 5 in completion percentage is unacceptable. So, I think in this one I would probably take the Broncos, because I just don't trust Lawrence and that Jaguars offense to put enough pressure on Denver, who offensively themselves have been very much up and down, although Bo Nix will be coming off of probably his best game in a while. But I'll take the Broncos in that one. Steelers-Lions. Now, this is an interesting one. The Steelers are fighting with the Ravens for the AFC North. The AFC North has turned into like the NFC South. Both teams tied with a matchup in the final week of the season looming. Look, we could have final week of the season, 2 divisions on the line. NFL will take that. Biggest question for me, do the Steelers have enough firepower to necessarily hang with a Lions team when the Lions have everything going. Lions are a very explosive offense when they have it clicking. The Lions are number 5 rush offense. They rush for 100, like 57 yards, 37 yards a game, I should say, sorry. So they're a team, if they get a lead, they can rely on their rushing attack to hold the opposition off. Steelers are only averaging 21 points a game in their last 3. And even before that, over the course of the season, they're only averaging like 24, 25 a game. So I think this is the game the Steelers need to kind of keep low scoring to be in it in the fourth quarter and see if they can't, work some magic to, I guess we'll say, steal a win here. The problem, Steelers are giving up 176 yards rushing a game in their last 3. Doesn't seem like it's a good recipe for Seattle in this one. I mean, for the Steelers in this one, sorry. I'm going to go with the Lions. I just think the Lions are going to be the desperate team, obviously. They're on the outside looking in, trying to find their way somehow into the NFC playoff picture. It could just be that doors are, like, avenues for them would probably be closed off if they lose this one. This is a game that's in Detroit. Detroit has to win this one. I'll take Detroit. Monday night, you got 49ers and the Colts. It's a fascinating game. You can't even look at the season stats because Phillip Rivers, it's his second game. First game against Seattle, granted it was Seattle's defense. Only 120 yards passing. A lot of the throws were obviously dink and dunk underneath. And look, some of that could have been trying to work some of the rust off with the NFL game. But Colts only 17 per game in the last 3 weeks. That's even before Rivers was installed as the quarterback. Daniel Jones was definitely limping towards the finish. I mean, might be a poor choice of words because obviously he was dealing with the fracture, which turned into the Achilles tear in his other leg. But the Colts are the number 6 rush defense. Crazy thing is, the 49ers have CMC. They're actually not that good at rushing the ball themselves. They're bottom 3rd in the league. It has the makings of a low-scoring game, but I think right now I would trust Saleh's defense to kind of do what Seattle did to the Colts, and I'd probably trust the 49ers offense a little bit more than the Colts offense to put up points on a defense that's not terrible. So I'll take the 49ers in that one. And then finally, you have Pats, Ravens. Talking to my Patriots fans right now. The loss to Buffalo, it stings. I get it. But let's not read too much into it because, yes, Buffalo draws within a game, but the Patriots still control their destiny because, remember after this Ravens game, they still have the Jets and the Dolphins to close out their schedule. Really, they own the tiebreakers against Buffalo right now. I think right now the Patriots are destined to be the 2 seed. They can't really catch Denver unless Denver collapses because Denver holds tiebreakers over them. Jacksonville's the 3 seed. Maybe they jump them. I don't know. But it seems like the Patriots win the division at some point. Now, both teams of the Pats and the Ravens, bottom 3rd in the red zone percentage. We know that's been an issue for the Patriots over the course of the season. More surprisingly, though, Baltimore with Lamar, Derrick Henry, they just do not get touchdowns when they get into the red zone. Patriots allow the fewest red zone possessions, but they're actually one of the worst at stopping teams from getting in the end zone. That's going to be an interesting dynamic there. The Ravens obviously run the ball. That's what they do. That's their calling card, even though they don't seem to know that in crucial moments. But they're the number 3 rushing offense. The Patriots are the number 5 rush defense, but we know since the Milton Williams injury, they have been giving up more rushing yards. But I think it's going to be an interesting game. The Ravens are the more desperate team, but I'm gonna put it on Vrabel and the defensive staff to hold Lamar in the pocket, to try to corral Derrick Henry, and force Lamar to beat them over the top. That's what I think happens, but I think it's going to be a really good game. I'll take the Patriots. I'm taking my Patriots in that one. But like I said, that's 7 games this weekend that playoff implications are involved. It should be a fun weekend. I mean, hopefully you enjoy it. Plus, you still have other college football playoff games. We have Tulane, Ole Miss, James Madison, Oregon, and then what else is left? Miami, Texas A&M. Now, the James Madison Tulane games, I think a lot of people will be maybe tuned in until it becomes a blowout. If it does, obviously those two teams are the ones that nobody wanted in. But hey, any given, I guess we'll say Saturday in this case, at some point one of these group of fives will beat a big name team before they probably change the playoff structure. But I don't know. Is this the year it happens? We'll see. But yeah, I'm loving this right now. It's week 16. We have I think one spot in the AFC. One team is clinched officially. I think 2 teams in the NFC have clinched a playoff spot. So still a lot of moving parts, even though the amount of eliminated teams is growing. So I believe on both sides it's like 8 or 9 teams fighting for the 7 spots. So there's still some drama left in the NFL season. And look, college football playoff, always dramatic. I think this is a year where you have 4, 5 teams you could see realistically winning it all. I think that's great. So yeah, but let me know what you think about the Bama comeback, the college football playoff in general. If you want to make a pick for one of the NFL games, you can leave that in the comments, leave a review as well. I would greatly appreciate that. I will say, sitting here right now, college football playoff, I would probably go with, I kind of feel like we're destined for like a Ohio State, Oregon, or Georgia, Oregon national championship. I don't know. That's just what I'm looking at right now. I kind of think, I don't know if I want to make a prediction right now, but I'll say I did do one of those brackets. I have Oregon winning it all. Am I super confident in that? Not really. I just think this is one of those years where anything could happen. So I just went with Oregon. That's just me. But appreciate you for tuning in. Hopefully you enjoyed this one. If you did, like I said, leave a review, follow. Anything will help. Just let me know. Leave a comment too. Would love to hear from you. So appreciate it. Be safe. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. I will be back with you hopefully tomorrow with another episode. But until next time, be safe. God bless. I'm out of here. All right. Bye.